And welcome back to the History of Fleetwood Mac. I'm Anita. I hope everybody had a very happy Easter, and I'm going to start out today by doing kind of what I'd said in the past about a little retro video. We're going to go all the way back to the Wild Heart era. In addition to that, there are some new things I want to show you and kind of compare because they're not really going to be ever in the scrapbooks, and I'll never have enough articles to kind of go back and do a whole bunch of article pages. Usually the articles get cut up, put in the magazine. I leave them in the magazine. They cut up or get in the scrapbook, or in this case, like I told you, they go in those binders I have with all the separate articles. So this is a couple of things to share with you, and something kind of current, and we'll get into at the end, something about Stevie's potentially new album. So without further ado, like I said, I had gone back to the Wild Heart era, and the reason being is because I had purchased this really cool magazine from, I think it is from, it told me too, and I forget where it is at now. It's in the U.S., but I can't remember which city. But the magazine is Jam, and I really dug it with this purple and everything like that. And this is another situation where normally I wasn't sure if I should cut it up or leave it the way it was. But it was a newspaper magazine that, you know, kind of folded up, and then you open it, and so the picture would be like this way, and open it up, and it got real big, and it was not worth it to keep it. And funny enough, the cover and the article are really good, but the rest of it had started yellowing. And like I said, I just thought it would look better cut up and put into the album like this. And I found this paper recently, and I just thought, I don't know, it all seemed to kind of come together. So it was meant to be that I got it, and I got this paper to put it against. So this was the intro. They had articles on Saxon, Kenny Loggins, which kind of went with Stevie, Joni Mitchell, The Call. But it was Stevie Nicks, true to her Gemini nature, Stevie proves she can be a member of Fleetwood Mac and carry on a solo career as well. And so there was this on the cover, like I said, the inside, and then this was on the outside, like on the back cover or somewhere, what issue it was, inclusive of another Stevie photo. And then this, I forgot where I got this. I hope it's not one of my friends, so I asked somebody who I thought it was, but it's, you know, a slightly hand-tinted poster like Herbert Worthington had done, but it has this really neat, I don't know if somebody just did this and put it in this kind of frame, but I just thought it looked really neat. This is from the internet if it's not one of my friends. Even if it is one of my friends, it's something that I just had made up at like Walgreens or something like that, a simple photo. Kind of filler, but it looked kind of cool with this article. So carrying on to that, the first page of that article is this great picture of Stevie as well. See how it's kind of yellowing there? So that's really why I wanted it out. I didn't want it creased anymore. I wanted it straight. So that's why I decided to take it. A funny article. The gentleman, the interviewer, is Vernon L. Gowdy. I guess Gowdy, maybe the third. And it talks more about, well, it's an article, it's an interview with Stevie, but it says the phone rang at the Jam office. This is frontline management. Is Vernon Gowdy in? Yes, this is he. Who authorized the cover story on Stevie? And then it goes on and on about him, like talking about Stevie, about her work, never really exactly talking to her, but there's little excerpts in there. And then it never comes back to the end about like how would frontline management know about the article, like how he's saying it until the article came out. So he couldn't put this in the beginning. Does that make any sense what I'm saying? Like, she's on the cover, the magazine's out, but then they would call him, but he has a prefacing the interview or the story on Stevie. It was just kind of weird. It's just a weird, just a whole setup, I guess. Not only did that not make sense to me, but the whole setup of the article was weird. But there are some really neat points in it, and including at the end, which is on the next page here. And I forgot to pull this from my box of stuff, and I'm not sure where it is, but if you remember, and I'll try to go in the comments, which I always say I will, but I don't think I ever do. It continues on to this part of the article here. Again, loving this paper. It just goes so well with it. You know, it goes on, you know, it's talking about Belladonna and Wild Heart and such. And so I'll read you the very tail end of the article. Stevie has stated that in basic ways, she hasn't changed. Obviously, in material ways, she has, of course, but she maintains she still loves all the same things she used to. The clothes, the long dresses, high boots, the same eye makeup. In other words, she's still herself. Every place she lives still looks like her apartment in San Francisco. The bed is still on the floor. I'm not a fad person, says Stevie. I still have everything. I still have everything I had back when Lindsay and I were together. That's one part of me, you know. That's where my songs come from. Those are the things that I can't give up. The neatest part about the end of this article is Stevie is currently working on a book. A close friend of Nick's is reproducing the print and calligraphy on parchment paper. I'm really excited, says Stevie. This will give me a chance to say everything I ever wanted to say. And then ends as if her music doesn't. And the reason I thought this kind of exciting is because if you recall in one of my prior videos, there was a eBay auction. I'm sure I talked about this, where there was a book that was being made for, why did I just forget his name? Robin, her best friend Robin's son, because Robin had passed away, and Stevie wanted to make this book about Robin, and it was it's described very much like this. I mean, the book in the description and visually, it's described just like this. So I kind of just wonder if this book that she's talking about would have talked more about her life because Robin was such a part of it, or if this book was always going to be just about her and Robin, or it just doesn't really sound like an autobiography. And a close friend of Nick's is reproducing the print calligraphy. Now, by the time Stevie was working on that book, it was on eBay that went for like millions of dollars, and then people were petitioning to get it from whoever had it and give it to the rightful owner, which was Robin's son, Stevie's godson, and all this BS that went on. It was just a huge dumpster fire of an issue. And to my knowledge, the book never got sold. But I don't know if the person still has it. They could have private sold it or something. But anyway, just the whole calligraphy on parchment paper and a friend doing it for her, because a lot of other people were involved in helping Stevie Nicks make that book. So it was just kind of a little interesting tidbit to me. And it just really, as soon as I read that, I just zeroed in on that book in particular and just wonder if that is, there's never been a mention of it. Stevie talks about writing a book, but the detail of the parchment paper and calligraphy and all that kind of stuff, again, just kind of made me think of that. So that was a really cool article, again, from Jam Magazine. And then going back to the Wild Heart era, I don't know if I had shown you, again, I'm not sure in a video, but I'd come across a print from Herbert Worthington, and it was untouched, like Stevie had done the poster. And, she had done all the hand tinting for the Wild Heart poster that we're so familiar with. But this print, like this of Herbert Worthington's, was just something that was really special. And I sold a couple copies to friends and acquaintances and such, because, I just had a nice copy of it made, and I sold the original. This one was kind of a little bit of a different texture and print and stuff like that. But this was really a cool little thing that I had. And I didn't mind not having the original anymore because I really do like the hand-tinted one. But this is still really cool to see untinted, just in the black and white like Herbert Worthington took it. And on that note, I got playing with it on my phone, and I had printed it out in many different shades, and I just love how it looks. This is how we most, see to it on the poster, always. And what's funny is I think this is like a green and turquoise tone, where this has more like blue and purple, just much more vibrant pastel, if that's a thing. But it seems to me like this more green and turquoise is a real thing. It seems like there is a release of that properly. And I want to say for some reason that the smaller version of this poster that's for Cincinnati or someplace, that it's like a 11 by 14 poster, but it's still not the fancy print like the large poster is. But it's just a small replica of the Wild Heart poster. And it seems to me like there's just more of a greenish turquoise tint than this blue and purple. Could be wrong. Just seems to me like that. But these were all playing on my phone with the different colors, and I just dug how it looked, and so I made this little collage. I just thought it was neat. But it was really kind of cool to see it the way it was, and then the the way we know it. This is just how we know it. And I was just doing the Herbert Worthington, which is funny because these stickers that I have, this G has like a long tail. And if you put it up here, it looked really stupid. But if you put it down here, there was nowhere for the tail to go. So it looks like worthy Natin. But it's okay, it's fine. So that was that. That was for my little, again, going back to Wild Heart. Now I still have more. I have a little pile here, which doesn't look much to you guys, but trust me, it's quite a bit. There's a little pile here. There's a lot of little stuff in there. And I had noticed as well that I had some stuff in my scrapbook with stuff missing, stuff that I didn't show you, and clippings and pictures that I've gotten since then that kind of went with other stuff. So I'm going to be redoing some pictures, and I'm still working on that. And that's why I want to start with this, magazine I got, and this little fun thing that I was doing with this stuff. So There will be more Wild Heart. I think I will be continuing with more Wild Heart tomorrow. To wrap up the video, this was an article that I showed you. I had in my clippings, the binders, my clippings, and not clippings, my articles. And this was something that had come out from Celebrity Sleuths, and this was a magazine that came out like in the 90s and 2000s, where they really, I think it might go back earlier, but definitely through the 90s. And it was it's always celebrities, and they were always just trying to get them as nude as possible. Now, what they were doing is they were taking like screenshots from R-rated movies. If it was like, Michelle Pfeiffer, Sigourney Weaver, just whoever was hot in the 90s. And this one is funny because I don't know where this caricature is from other than for this stupid magazine. But of course, they were going to use, the Buckingham Nicks part to get, this, nudie image of Stevie, really trying really hard, the cleavage here. So there's this article, and I've just had it because I just remember it coming out. It was so, oh my goodness, pearl clutching type of thing. Well, another issue of Celebrity Sleuth that was basically in the same year, not the same year, but anyway, they came out. Let's see, this one came out in, this one was, it doesn't say what year, but with Demi Moore on the cover. I'm going to say 1992, right there in big letters, 1992. But this one I'm pretty confident came out in 92 as well. And I don't know why, because it says Celebrity Sleuth here. Like maybe this one was like a, the collector issue or some crap like that. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't talk about like her most latest album or anything like that. No. But so this magazine, but they had their own thing, a whole different thing. So this part is similar. Well, you can see how some of it is similar, some of it is not. So this is infamous, which kills me. Again, she's trying so hard to make her nude when she's clearly not. And no picture looks like that. And in fact, it just cracks me up so much because from a distance, it does look like a big old boob hanging out. They just, definitely highlighted the color and stuff like that. It's just ridiculous of them to do that. Early days of Photoshop, and then these pictures and stuff like that, just trying so hard to make it like, a nude thing, because it's just not going to happen. I mean, this is the closest thing. And you notice for, since how many years did we talk about? 50 years, 50 odd years, nobody's been able to really get all of the nude ones, magazine publication, nobody's published that. So that's a strong indicator that it's pretty hard to get anything of Stevie, remotely naked, even though there is technically some stuff out there. So I just got this kind of recently, and at first I was like, why do I want this again? But me, it is different. It is two different articles, even though they share some of the same photos. So that was kind of cool. And lastly, I guess what I want to talk about, the big news right now with everybody, well, there's two things that are actually the big news. Over the weekend, or I guess really on Friday, but I'd already done a video. As we well know, Lindsey Buckingham was assaulted. He had a liquid or something like that thrown onto him as he was entering for a doctor appointment. So, maybe I'll make another video one day about stalkers and psycho fans, because there are plenty. There's a whole little, pond full of them. And I'm aware of this individual. This individual has been on several, websites, none of our better ones or, stuff like that. But I've never had any interaction with them to my knowledge. But I am aware of their name. And funny enough, the person was Michelle Dick, which I thought was hilarious. But they do go under another name on Facebook, which I won't give, just so that that's just not my thing. But that's the name that's released by the news. But on Facebook and such like that, they do go under a different name, which I thought was really interesting. And that's the name I've known them as. I didn't know them as Michelle Dick. I just can't quit laughing at that stupid last name because she is such a dick, right? So, but last I had heard, she lived in the Bay Area. I always thought she lived in the Bay Area. I think she's from the Bay Area. But, this is a person who found their way to Los Angeles or Beverly Hills. So, that's about an 8-hour drive from the Bay Area to Los Angeles. And, so there's a whole drive down there thinking about it, what they're going to do, finding out how they, what doctor appointment Lindsey had. All that stuff is just really spooky. And Lindsey's fine, apparently. And I guess he was seen out on Saturday or something. Maybe it happened on Thursday and he was seen out on Saturday and he's fine. And apparently not afraid to go out and, run errands, get in his car by himself. But it's just a bummer to hear, he's older and, we don't want anything to happen to him, of course. And, he always likes to take walks and stuff like that. And just his privacy should not only be, damaged, but just, because we love him so much, we also just don't want anything to happen to him. So it's a damn shame. And apparently, as well, he's had a whole bunch of problems with her in the past. I mean, she's left, messages on their phone and thinks that Stevie and Lindsay are her parents and that they deformed her face when she was like a year old. And I guess she has other beefs with Nikki Sixx of Motley Crue. Those seem to be her three people that she really, laser focuses on. But I don't know, to my knowledge, that Stevie's ever had to put a restraining order or order of no contact. Is that the same thing with this person? But Lindsay has, and I think that the order of no contact kind of expired recently. But so much time had gone by that I think Lindsay and family was probably like, okay, no reason to, but whatever. So yeah, I don't know if this person is in custody or what, but obviously they have mental health issues, and I'm one of those kind of people that is I'm kind of weird with mental health. It just, obviously it's out there and people have it, but there's also a fine line of like, stopping yourself or realizing like what I'm doing is going to be wrong, especially like I said, if she does still live in the Bay Area and she's taking that whole drive down there, she's coherent about going down there, what she's going to do, finding out that he has an appointment. So to me, that's not mental health. That's something else. I mean, usually in my opinion, mental health is just like a spur of the moment or just something that just happens to be there and they do it, or I don't know. I'm just saying, I just have my own take. And, so it's certainly not a laughing matter that she has this issue. But just as soon as anything like that happened, seek help or get her, there was nothing about that in the news. Maybe she did, but I just hadn't heard anything. And anyway, but the bigger, better news, that makes everything happy and forgetting about all that random kind of scary stuff is that supposedly Stevie has released her birthday this coming May for her album, and it is still called the Ghost album. And what's really ironic about that is that less than a week ago, I was in a store here in Oregon, and I was going through the magazines like I normally do, and I picked up this magazine, and I did not realize that it was the January 2026 issue, and I picked it up at the end of March. So the store still had it in stock was really weird. This was like a kind of like a Walmart type of store, but it's local only to Oregon. And this is a store that it's really weird, that they carry Uncut and Mojo, but also that they would still have an issue from January in March or April or whatever. So in that magazine, I noticed, I zeroed right in on the fact that Stevie Nicks was on the cover just by her name. And then on the inside, there was a little article about her with a picture that her new album, or people were talking about looking forward to albums in 2026. And again, it was titled to be confirmed, release date to be confirmed. And it kind of just said the same thing that Margie Kent had said earlier about, she had so many songs and it was supposedly titled the Ghost album, blah, blah, blah. Well, since I posted that, because I had just never seen anything in print, I posted about it in some Facebook groups I'm in. And now there's just been this huge surge of apparently people got a hold of it and, it's confirmed, and some other website did. And supposedly they have to have like 3, confirmations so that they don't get, sued for wrongful information or something like that. Anyway, but it seems like it's out and about. I looked it up and I always thought Friday was release date. So I think I might have made an error there, because I guess somebody texted me today, and said that Stevie's last 3 albums or last few albums have come out on Tuesdays, and this release date is a Tuesday. For some reason, I thought release date was on Friday. So that is my error. But yeah, it looks like, just out of nowhere, we've been waiting. There's been no word about it. And then I find this old magazine from January. And like I said, I had seen nothing in print about Stevie's album coming out, just talk on the internet. And now we're getting, other confirmation online and then people.com or something like that, again, that it is coming out indeed in May. So kind of something to look forward to, but not much time. It's still the beginning of April, but, pretty soon, I'm sure they'll put up like limited edition stuff and, order now and get a print or something. There always is stuff. So be keen, be alert for that kind of stuff if you're into it, because if it's something signed, if it's a limited poster or something like that, you got to act quick because that stuff goes. And so watch the internet. There really is no source anymore. There's not like the Knicks fix, but watch here. I'll try and, tell you things as soon as I hear them. But literally you can hear something in the morning, and by evening it's gone. So just, pay attention, I guess. talk to friends and reach out when you can for information. So I did not think this video would go this long. Apparently it has, and all that information. So thank you so much for joining me, and we'll come back with more going back retro episodes of Wild Heart and with the stuff I have and go on from there. Thank you so much and have a great night. Bye.